Number one, put God first. Put God first in everything you do. Everything that you think you see in me, everything that I've accomplished, everything that you think I have, and I have a few things, everything that I have is by the grace of God. Understand that. It's a gift.
Some voices dare to question the status quo in a society where polarizing narratives and political correctness rule. We examine how Denzel Washington demolishes the so-called woke culture with shrewd clarity and harsh honesty. Denzel Washington is a Hollywood legend who isn't afraid to speak his thoughts about race, politics, and the real challenges affecting society today. Let's examine his thoughts in more detail.
There's been so many protests in America, especially during the election. Black Lives Matter movement, for example, and those issues. Has that movement in particular, the Black Lives Matter movement, helped race relations or not in America?
Well, listen, we live in America, and in America we have the freedom to express ourselves. We shouldn't take that for granted. So whatever the movements are, whether you agree with them or don't, they have the right to express themselves. So that's one of the great things about being in this country, that you do have the right to protest.
Let me ask you this, what issue do you hope President-elect Trump tackles? What's number one in your mind with the new administration?
I don't know. I'd have to be more informed to just say off the top of my head the number one issue. I'm not sure. Education, jobs, health. I mean, there's so many.
Now, under President Obama, over the last 8 years, in your mind, have race relations improved under his leadership?
Race relationships have to do with race relationships. You're white or whatever you are, I'm black or whatever I am. We're standing here talking now. That's how we get things done. You can't legislate love. The President of the United States can't legislate us into liking each other. We have to step forward and ask questions about each other and engage. There's no law that says, oh, because I'm president, you all got to get along now. I think this is what I think. I think we as Americans better learn to unite. I think we as Americans need to put our elected officials' feet to the fire and demand that they work together, or they won't get back in office. In this age we live in, this accelerated information age, we're getting further and further apart. We're not getting together, we're getting further and further and further apart. Everybody can't be right. But I think this is an opportunity, actually. You see how people are being energized and protesting and all that. But I think this is an opportunity for us to look at ourselves as a country and say, are we together really? And are we holding our elected officials accountable to making sure that they're working together? Not just, hey, you're on your side, I win what I win, you win what you win. Because this is what is happening. This is what's happening. And God only knows where it's going.
Denzel emphasizes that real racial relationships are formed via dialogue, not through rules or regulations. People must make an effort and try to interact and connect with one another. The government cannot make people understand one another. This is an outright attack against woke culture's dependence on laws and hierarchical methods to address racial issues. Denzel's argument is that genuine change occurs via communication and interpersonal relationships rather than through laws and regulations. It's an appeal for individual accountability in bridging gaps in communities. As Denzel advocates for increased accountability and communication, he considers his own experiences and reminds us that perseverance and self-discipline are essential for success, lessons he has personally experienced.
I was 20. I worked for I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York. I worked for the sanitation department. I was a garbage man.
You were a garbage man?
I was a garbage man. I worked the back of the truck, 22 square blocks. That's hard. Doing movies, there's nothing that we do in the movies that's hard.
I used to deliver for United Parcel Service on a truck.
Right.
That was hard.
Yeah.
This is a joke.
Yeah.
You hear often that black actors, black movies don't play well overseas. Is that the truth, or is that an excuse?
I've heard everything. And what I hear keeps changing. Because they used to say it didn't sell over here. Then it does. Then it said it doesn't sell in the South. Then it does. Well, it doesn't sell in Europe. Then it does. So I just keep pushing. Well, what an opportunity I have to prove them wrong.
This is all happening at a time when the Oscars are being criticized for lack of diversity. I'm just wondering, what do you think about that?
I don't have to think about it. I've lived it. I've been the guy at the Oscars without my name being called. I've been the guy at the Oscars when my name is called. I've been the guy at the Oscars when everybody thought they was going to call my name and they didn't. So I've lived it.
So what would you say to the people who are looking at this process and saying it's unfair?
Yeah, and so what? You give up? If you're looking for an excuse, you will find one.
In race.
You can find it wherever you like. You can't live like that. Just do the best you can do.
In response to a question regarding discrimination at the Oscars, Denzel establishes the tone by emphasizing that while it is simple to find reasons and excuses, hard effort and perseverance are the only ways to make progress. Here, Denzel directly challenges the victimhood mindset that is frequently promoted by woke culture. He stresses determination and personal responsibility rather than focusing on discrimination. His message is that, even in the face of injustice, one should not point the finger at the system, but rather keep striving for success. This is a powerful outlook that changes the focus from oppression to overcoming obstacles with persistence.
I think it's more important to make headway in our own house. By the time the system comes into play, the damage is done. They're not locking up 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
You know, I was in Chicago a couple of 3-4 weeks ago, and we saw these little kids on bikes with masks on the side of their head, like 5 or 6 of them. And the driver said, yeah, they're little yummies. I said, who? He said, little yummies. Look up, Google Lil Yummy. Lil Yummy was an 11-year-old murderer.
Wow.
And you look at his picture, you'll see the headshot of him, and he's like this. And he got murdered at 11 by a 14-year-old.
Wow.
Who's doing life now, and a 16-year-old.
That makes no sense.
You blame the system? Where was his father?
Yeah.
It starts in the house. It starts in the home. And yeah, well, my father got locked up. Well, where was his father?
Yeah.
You know, like I did talk about my 3 closest friends, and they did, 15 to 25, one did 28, this and that. I was the only one of the 3 that had a father in my life, even though my parents were together, but I still had a father who was a gentle man and a good example, and they didn't. We can blame the system if we want, but they didn't lock any of us up at 7.
Yeah.
We were all doing enough to get locked up at 13. My parents sent me in another direction. They didn't have anybody to help them, and they kept doing what they was doing, and the system got them. So
Denzel takes a hard stance against the current society, which frequently focuses on blaming external systems, by placing the burden of responsibility on the foundation established at home rather than on other forces or systems. Denzel puts the spotlight back on families and communities, emphasizing that change starts in our homes long before external factors enter the picture. This idea of togetherness and accountability is closely related to how we interact with one another, particularly across racial and cultural divides. Finally, Denzel's upcoming insight explores how the media shapes public opinion, particularly at a time when false information has become commonplace.
So what is the long-term effect of too much information? The polarization of the electorate? A meaner spiritedness?
And false information as well, because the whole fake news thing.
Pick one. It's not just one. That's the flavor of the day. Every day is something else. People have to understand, are you using your device or is your device using you? Can you put it down? Can you turn it off?
You're talking about literally the places people get their information from.
I don't care what information. Pick one. Phone, television. You know, it used to be news. Now it's opinions.
Oh, glasses. We have 3 experts on the right, 3 on the left. Let's discuss. Ooh, light bulbs. We have 3 experts on the right. That's not news. That's opinion news.
Well,
Over and over and over. Cycle, 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 cycle. What is the long-term effect of too much information? If you're sitting there and you're thinking it's the gospel, what I'm saying to people is, to all of us, I'm not knocking the phone. What I'm saying is we have to understand, we have to at least ask ourselves, around the world, you here in England, wherever you are, what is it doing to us?
Denzel's message is very obvious. We should be more skeptical of the information we take in. This is a blatant jab at the woke movement, which frequently feeds off of frenzied outrage and quick judgments rather than careful consideration. Denzel asks us to take a back seat, consider critically about how information affects our perceptions, and resist being swayed by the media's ceaseless barrage of information. Denzel reminds us once again how important accountability is, not only for oneself.
If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed.
So what do you do?
That's the great question. What is the long-term effect of too much information? One of the effects is the need to be first, not even to be true anymore. So what a responsibility you all have to tell the truth, not just to be first, but to tell the truth. We live in a society now where it's just first. Who cares? Get it out there. We don't care who it hurts. We don't care who we destroy. We don't care if it's true. Just say it, sell it. Anything you practice, you'll get good at, including BS.
This is an effective critique of the way the media currently operates, which frequently magnifies stories without doing fact-checking. Woke culture also depends on these instantaneous reactions and viral moments. Denzel's point: setting priorities for honesty and integrity over spectacle and quickness is always a good idea. In order to navigate today's complex world, Denzel Washington believes that personal responsibility, critical thinking, and unity are essential. He challenges the superficial narratives of woke culture and encourages us to delve deeper and take charge of our own lives. However, the real question is, do you agree with Denzel's views on race, culture, and accountability? If not, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We also would love to know if you enjoyed the video.